Watch. So I've got you guys an update on a pretty big storm system that's moving across the central plains tonight, and then this will continue into the rest of this week. We're covering the pretty much the same storm system that we've been talking about for pretty much the entirety of this week. We're dealing with a lot of rainfall that's spreading across the north central plains here. Some severe storms that are rotating around the inner half of this storm system right here in this Boeing line that's pushing up to the northwest into places like northwestern Iowa, into southern Minnesota. We're going to see two rounds of severe weather. We saw one earlier. Now we're going to get a second round as we get into tonight. And then as the storm pushes off to the east, we could get maybe even a third round of severe weather. So I've got you guys an update on all of that coming right up. So guys, I apologize for such a late update. I really did not mean to do it this late. I really wanted to cover like the last and final discussion on what was going to be happening here, but I actually had a lot of work to, schoolwork, so I was actually pretty busy. But I'm getting you guys one that's going to go pretty quick. I'm going to go as quick as possible, but not rushing. But you can see it's just starting out here with the radar. Just looking at any storms in particular that's looking that look it could be causing some problems out here. We see a pretty big storm system that's developing to the southwest of Lincoln, Nebraska. This is also going to be moving towards Omaha, Nebraska. I know you guys have been dealing with the rain right now, but these two storms are most likely going to be producing some pretty large hail. Definitely some damaging wind gusts. So watch out for, I would say, wind gusts up to 65 miles per hour. Definitely large hail. Des Moines, Iowa, you guys are up next with these two rounds. All right, this bowing out line of storms farther up north that we were talking about. Well, here it is coming up right here. These aren't exactly strong, like extremely strong, two severe storms, but I would say that these could definitely be a little stronger than average. All right. And then, where are your tornadic storms? That's what you want to look out for. So basically, what we've got going on is we have that tornado watch that was up earlier today. That's actually expired. So that tornado threat has definitely it's definitely decreased in a pretty big way. So we're not seeing nearly as much supercell action as we did just a few hours ago. But you can see we got still some runoff supercell storms that they were developing as they moved through southwestern Nebraska. But you can see once they cross over Omaha, that area, Fremont, all right, that's where they kind of they start bowing out into that damaging wind gust line. All right, so that's how you can tell that tornado threat is decreasing. But again, getting a big look at the storm system, where your low pressure center is, it's right into here, and you've got these these rain bands, and which is also associated with those strong to severe storms, are all rotating around the system. So we move on to our alerts here. So starting out here in the central U.S., what we've got going on is this is including central and western Nebraska down into northwestern Kansas, and then also parts of extreme eastern Colorado. We have a high wind warning. We are expecting wind gusts that could gust up to 75 miles per hour. So you could possibly be getting hurricane force wind gusts within this area, and this is including millions of people. We have a big area that's in this risk, and then inside this right inside this high wind warning, you can see that we actually do have a few counties out there in central Nebraska that is currently under a flash flood warning. There also is I believe there is a severe thunderstorm warning that just expired, but it is out there. All right. And then you've got wind advisories that stretch out for parts of South Dakota, just excluding parts of western South Dakota. But for the rest of you guys are for now are under that wind advisory because you get those winds coming down from the northwest, and that's what's really causing these power outages and these wind advisories and warnings out here, just because those winds are very strong. But we have a second wind advisory now, including parts of central Kansas down into parts of northwestern Mexico, or I don't know what's going on with me today. Sorry, northwestern Oklahoma. It's been a long day. All right, but We do also have a freeze warning. All right, this is including a few different states here. Very weird to see scattered freeze warnings, but we see northeastern Arizona in that freeze warning. Some counties scattered out here in New Mexico. A lot of counties out here in western Colorado. A few counties in central Utah, and then right here in southern Nevada, we have a few counties as well. Winter storm advisories and warnings going out for portions of central and southeastern Wyoming. And I think that right inside here, where we have that high wind warning and that winter storm warning, that's where we could actually see blizzard conditions. I think we could actually have blizzard conditions for some areas of southwestern Wyoming. I think that we're getting the snow, we're getting the wind. That's all really that's gonna create some pretty nasty winter storm conditions out here. And we're actually experiencing a pretty intense winter storm for many of these areas out here in these winter storm advisories and winter storm warnings. So be on the lookout for a lot of snow that's going to fall in these areas. All right, so nothing much other than that. Well, you actually also do have a freeze watch that's going out for northeastern Colorado and southeastern Colorado. So that's going to be it for our alerts. We go over to the NAM 3 cam model for the central U.S. So we're going to be looking at what we can expect for the rest of tonight into tomorrow when it comes to our severe storms here. So starting out, you can see that this was the picture on 3 p.m. These are your developing supercells that was in the time frame of when we had that tornado watch. All right, and so watch these pop-up storms right by where our central low pressure is right here. Watch how these develop right here. They start to spread apart. You can see all these little dots here, these dots of yellow, red, orange. These are supercells right here. This is a particularly strong one right here, moving across central Kansas. All right, but notice how quickly, right after 8 p.m., this is probably our most active hour of tornadoes, which was 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. So pretty much just about an hour ago, we had many supercells dancing across parts of eastern Nebraska into northern Kansas. I think that's where we had that big tornado threat. I don't know, the exact number of tornado reports we had, but I'm pretty sure we did have at least one confirmed tornado today. But it most likely was in either north central Kansas or into eastern Nebraska. I'm not sure about that, but very dangerous supercells still ongoing. We still get to 10 p.m. where we are right now. This is us right now. We still have those same supercells that they're starting to bow out, but you still got a small tornado potential. If I were the National Weather Service, I would keep that tornado watch up just another hour, but they're professionals, so we'll leave it to them with that. But anyways, we notice how we get to around 11 to 11 p.m. to midnight here. These supercells they fizzle out and they kind of fall apart as this thing is rotating. Look at all this backside snow moving into now western Nebraska and then these mountainous regions of the north central U.S. That's where we could have those blizzard conditions. Because remember, this area in particular, is actually under a high wind warning. All right, and then these supercells. I mean, there's only a few of them that you can really point out here. And looking at the NAM 3 cam model, you don't usually. This isn't a radar that you're looking at. This is just a prediction based off of a model animation. So this is not a actual like a forecast radar. This is just model animation. So this just shows you what the storm systems could look like and where. All right, but we get into 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. So waking up tomorrow morning, and we have some storms marching their way across the Midwest here. This is a pretty big storm system, and we see what these storms do. They get pretty strong, and I think some of these could be severe. We do have a marginal risk for severe weather out for this region. So around 3, 4, 5 p.m. tomorrow, we could really get some strong storms. Look at all this backside rain and thunderstorm action. We could get maybe up to another 2 rounds of severe weather as we get into tomorrow. And then the storm system continues to just push off to the east. And as this moves over the Ohio Valley, we see some more storms starting to form up here. We see, maybe we could even get another tornado threat. I think we could definitely have a few spinning, rotating supercells right into here into parts of central Ohio. You could definitely have to watch that, but you just don't know what exactly is going to happen after really after tomorrow until we get to tomorrow morning. We'll have a more of a clear idea of what really is going to happen as the storm pushes farther off to the east. So after that, a few rain showers could move through, but mainly for the Midwest. Otherwise, it's just going to be a pretty chilly weekend that is ahead for you guys in the north central plains. So we look at the northwestern U.S. We're going to be taking a look at the snowfall here. This is what we were talking about with those blizzard conditions. Well, here it is right here. Look at all this extreme heavy snow in this dark blue here that's mixed in with some of that rain. These are for the upper elevations and the surrounding area. So if you live next to a mountain and like let's say you if you look out your window, a specific window in your house, and you can see a mountain, you're most likely going to pick up some snow, but you're also probably going to get some rain, so probably some wet snow. All right, but notice how we see a lot of snow falling across central portions of central Wyoming into northern Colorado, the Rockies. You guys are going to get probably up to a few feet of snow, 1 to 2 feet of snow for sure. But this very heavy snow, three little areas of very heavy snow that could definitely move through. Not only parts of southeastern Wyoming, you can see here a lot of snow in southeastern Wyoming, but you can see in western Nebraska, we could even see the heaviest snow in there. So there's some two areas that I really would be concerned about for snowfall that could really cause travel delays. I mean, this is not a highly populated area. This is, I would say this is for sure under 500,000 people, but there are a few people out there. Obviously there are some roadways out there, so travel could be difficult if you are in some of these areas that are expected to pick up some snow in parts of southern Wyoming into western Nebraska. All right, but once we get to tomorrow morning, all that will be left is a few backside rain showers, maybe some flurries out there, but that's really going to be it because you're going to get some cold air and some high pressure that's just going to be dominating the western U.S. for a long time until this next storm system comes through. So we look at now our current wind gusts. This is what we're going to be looking at for the rest of tonight into tomorrow. We're going to be taking a look at how strong these wind gusts will actually be. So just want you guys to remember, this is in wind gusts. This is not in just sustained winds, all right? So this is basically when the wind all of a sudden gets stronger for a few seconds. That's what this is, but this is just how strong that will be. So we'll put this to where we are now, all right? So looking at our current wind field, all right, we have a pretty big area here that is experiencing some strong winds. This has actually gotten It's actually gotten smaller than smaller than it used to be here. All right, we can see the strongest winds right now appear to be blowing out here in southern South Dakota. You could see around Sioux Falls around 45-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Huron at 45 as well. Pierre around 50 miles an hour. Rapid City around 35. All right, Valentine 43. But when you see these pinks and purples, those are wind gusts approaching 40 up to 50 miles an hour, and we see these winds coming down from the northwest that I've been talking about lately. Well, they're wrapping around the center of the storm, so you could even get strong winds all the way down towards Grand Island, Omaha, North Platte. A lot of these major cities out here in Nebraska could really get some strong winds. So once the storm continues to rotate, notice how this wind field, this big patchy area of stronger winds, will slowly rotate around the storm, including some areas like Colby, Kansas, Omaha, Nebraska, Sioux City, North Platte, and areas like that. All right, so we'll put this to 3 p.m. or 3 a.m., I should say. All right, these winds do increase. They get stronger, and so now we see a lot of these areas picking up wind gusts, now reaching around 50 miles an hour. But you notice how we go from where we are now with those winds up here in the northwest. Well, now they're coming down slowly to the south. So now we just have a straight line of strong winds pretty much starting up north, then going right down south. Now we see North Platte gusting around 45 miles per hour. Colby gusting to 45 as well. All right, Valentine in Nebraska gusting to around 50 miles an hour. Sioux Falls still gusting over 40. Huron gusting at around 38, 37 miles an hour. Pierre gusting at around 39. All right, so a lot of big cities picking up some strong winds. Boise City around 35 miles an hour, maybe a little higher. Dodge City in Kansas around 40 miles an hour. So, I mean, I'm really picking up some strong winds out here. Just according to our latest wind estimate from the European model. So we'll skip ahead pretty far to 8 a.m. tomorrow. You can see that this will not move fast. This is slowly rotating. So this is not going to the direction of the winds will not change that fast. All right, so this wind field, it will shift slowly but surely. All right, so now we see Colby, Kansas really gusting to 51. This is when you're going to get the strongest winds for central and western Nebraska into northwestern Kansas and even into extreme eastern Colorado. This is when you'll probably see the strongest wind gusts. So when you wake up tomorrow morning, which actually this might be in Eastern time, so this might be just a few hours before you wake up tomorrow morning. These could be the wind gusts that you're going to be getting around 50 miles an hour. North Platte, Grand Island, about to pick these up just on the edge of around 50 miles an hour. Colby, Kansas, gusting to 51. All right, we go to Valentine, 45. All right, so some pretty big cities picking up some pretty big winds. These are wind gusts strong enough to knock down trees if the ground is saturated enough, which it most likely will be. All right, and this will definitely cause pretty widespread power outages. We're going to see some pretty big numbers as we get into tomorrow. Then we get to around it's around 2 p.m. Pretty much so around 11. I would say 11 a.m. for you guys if this is in Eastern time. 54 miles an hour in North Platte. Now you guys in Grand Island are gusting to 50. Colby, Kansas, gusting to 53. Dodge City gusting to 51. Salina, 44. Wichita, Kansas, 45. All right. We can take this out all the way to, we're getting into around 10. I mean, this is 8 p.m. So this is around dinner time for you guys. Grand Island still gusting around 50. I'm not going to take too much time going over these wind gusts, but in general, you can see that in these yellows and oranges, these are wind gusts ranging pretty much 25 up, anywhere from 25, 30 up to around 40, 45 miles per hour. Once you get in the center of this area, once you see these reds and these pinks and these purples here, that's where you can start picking up wind gusts over 40 miles an hour, maybe approaching 50. You could even get a few wind gusts over 50 miles an hour. So we get into tomorrow, what we could expect with tomorrow. Well, these winds, they kind of die down a little as the storm starts to weaken. Over the Great Lakes, in the Milwaukee area, Grand Rapids, Traverse City, Green Bay, all these areas along the coast of the Great Lakes, you could definitely get some strong winds, especially Milwaukee, because these winds can push along the water so they don't have anything blocking them so they can get stronger. All right. Meanwhile, back into now eastern Nebraska, eastern Kansas, still got wind gusts getting up to around 40 miles an hour. We're starting to get to midday tomorrow. All right. We see widespread 30, 40 mile an hour wind gusts now going through the Midwest. All right. We get to tomorrow night. And notice how we get now some very strong winds coming up from the south that's going to meet up with this storm system as the storm system pulls into the northeast. And so now we're going to be talking about strong winds in the northeast. European model doing something weird, showing a pocket of extreme burst of stronger winds here. We're getting up to 45 miles an hour, but specifically right near Atlantic City in southern New Jersey. All right. But, areas in the northeast, southern New England, watch out. It's going to be a gusty day as we get into Sunday. So we pretty much go from Friday to Saturday, and you can see that, pretty much Friday is going to be for the Midwest. Ohio Valley, you're up for Saturday. And then for Sunday is when we get the Northeast involved, or I should say southern New England and the Mid-Atlantic. But look at this. 63-mile-an-hour wind gusts just off the coast of southern New Jersey. I mean, this is going to be an intense storm, but notice how these winds, they start really diving down from the northwest here, and they just keep slamming into the coast. And your low pressure center, I guess you could say it would be right here because all this wind energy is getting sucked into it. So you could also have some pretty strong winds coming up from the southwest. So a lot of different wind patterns here that appear to be that will actually happen here. All right, but we see the storm as it moves off to sea. Obviously, it'll get stronger, but these winds are off to sea. But just notice that if this storm actually gets stronger before it completely moves off to sea, and let's say these wind gusts actually become onshore, then these coastal regions could really, this is impressive winds. 71-mile-an-hour wind gusts, 75-mile-per-hour wind gusts, and I know this is pretty far off the coast, but this can change, and let's say this changes, and this actually appears to be almost on the coast here, up from, the south shore of Long Island down towards the Delaware coastline. We could get some serious wind gusts and potentially some big damage out here. But we could definitely see maybe even some high wind warnings. We just really got to make sure that we're paying attention to this. But Long Island gusting to pretty much 30 miles an hour, so it's going to be a pretty big weekend for many areas. And notice how we get all of a sudden the entire eastern U.S. now all of a sudden is really just gusty in general. All right, so going to be a very wild and weird kind of weekend, but just for the heck of it, just want to show you this. This storm's way out to sea, but just admire the fact how this storm could actually be producing wind gusts up to 100 miles an hour as this is moving off to sea. But I just realized that this could actually impact Nova Scotia, all right, as this moves out to sea. So, but we could watch that in a later update. But let's move on to the NAM 3K model now for the Northeast. So we look at what we could expect for you guys when it comes to this storm. So we'll put this up to where our storm comes through. Here we go, right here, around 9 a.m. on the 14th, which should be a Saturday. This is Saturday. We're getting some pretty strong storms coming in from portions of eastern Ohio, and then for the rest of you guys, just some relatively heavy rain in general. All right, we don't see much thunderstorm action unless you're in the southeast near the Carolinas. You could get some strong to severe storms, but for the Northeast specifically, it's just looking like it's going to be a wet and windy weekend, but mainly for Saturday. Once we get into late Saturday, all right, we'll probably see the rainfall. We'll see the rainfall start to move in late Saturday. So we're talking, 2 to around 5 p.m. If you're looking on the coastline, more towards the coast, the later it'll be, the more heavy the rain will be. If you're farther inland, if you're in the interior Northeast, then probably early morning is when you'll start feeling some of that rainfall. But this rainfall, it takes pretty much all of overnight. We run out of model run time here, but this will take pretty much all of overnight, Saturday into Sunday, until we actually get rid of all this rainfall that will be moving off to the Atlantic. All right, but nothing to really worry about when it comes to that rainfall. But there may be some ponding on those roadways, but that's pretty much it. So we look at our current our rainfall totals here, what we could expect with that. All right, and we see this goes out all the way to the 16th. All right, so this is Monday the 16th. All right, so noticing that the heaviest rain looks like it could definitely fall in the north central plains. We see widespread, 1.5 inches of rain, all the way up to around 3 inches of rain could fall anywhere from western Michigan all the way towards southern Nebraska, southern South Dakota. So we could really see a pretty big area that could pick up a few inches of rain that will certainly lead to some flash flooding concerns, especially for this area here. But this rain spreads into the Northeast. Here we get another pocket of some similar rainfall totals. We're not getting over 4 inches of rain, though. That's going to be a good thing. We go to the southern New England and the Mid Atlantic here. This is what the area we're concerned the most about. All right, doesn't look like it's gonna be that bad. I would say you're mainly just gonna top off at around, an inch and a half of rain at most. I think that's what you could get. But obviously out here in the southern coast of New Jersey, the farthest, the farther you are out to the out to sea, pretty much, but still on the coast, um, you could get some heavier rain. So, like, basically, for example, again, looking at maybe even Long Island, but definitely the southern coast of New Jersey. That's an example of a place that is kind of sticking out to sea, but it's still right on the coast. All right, that's an area that could pick up some more rainfall. All right, so we look at our current SPC outlook for today. This is actually downgraded to a marginal risk. We are done with our slight risk that was out for today. All right, for now, this is just out for the rest of tonight. We have a marginal risk, including portions of western Iowa into parts of eastern Nebraska, down towards extreme western Missouri, and then also including eastern Kansas. You have northern, mainly northeastern Oklahoma in general. That's where you have that marginal risk. Nothing to really worry about with that. Still have a 2% tornado risk, all right? That's that tornado throw we were talking about, and a 5% wind and hail risk, all right? So nothing much to be worried about for the rest of tonight. We get into tomorrow, we have another marginal risk. All right, this could get upgraded to a slight risk. I don't think this will, but we have a 2% tornado risk, including Des Moines, Iowa. This is a pretty small area that's including parts of southern into Iowa into parts of extreme western Illinois, and then a small area of northeastern Missouri. You have a 2% tornado risk, and for that same area, you pretty much the same area. You got a 5% wind and hail risk. All right, day 3 outlook. So far, you got a marginal risk for the Outer Banks of North Carolina. This could change because this is kind of far out, but we'll just have to continue watching what happens with the forecast here. So, changing our focus to now the tropics. So we are talking about the tropics once again. Again, this is the final hurrah of tropical activity here in the Atlantic. We've had a pretty active season. This is pretty much what we expected. As we wind down here, as of now, we're dealing with Tropical Storm Sean here. Tropical Storm Sean is a weak tropical storm, 40 miles an hour. All right, this is expected to kind of move over some unfavorable waters, and just, it's not going to really enter an area that's going to support development. But behind it, we have Invest 94L that is expected to drift towards the Caribbean. And our folks out here in the Caribbean islands really got to stay alert, because this thing could actually become a pretty serious and dangerous storm system. And I'm afraid that this one is this has a chance to be our last hurricane of the Atlantic hurricane season. So I'm saying that now. I'm not saying this is definitely going to happen. This thing hasn't developed yet. We're nowhere near making any decisions on what we're expecting to happen. We can't even really expect anything to happen other than the fact that this has a chance to develop. But we can definitely look at what the models are saying as for now. So right now we have a 10% risk of development throughout the next 48 hours. We have a 50% chance of tropical development throughout the next 7 days. This will change. This will definitely get higher. I think that this has a pretty good shot, at least a decent shot at becoming at least a tropical storm. So we'll really have to keep all eyes on this storm when we look at the tropics. So we'll compare for the last part of the update the GFS and the European model for the tropics. That's what we're going to do. Pretty simple for the last part of the update here. All right, so looking at the GFS 18Z, all right, this is some new information, so I haven't looked at this yet. All right, but this is your tropical wave right here that's trying to battle off some relatively, it's pretty weak high pressure, all right, and it's trying to keep it down south, but this high pressure starts to move north, allowing the Invest 94L to begin to gain latitude. All right, that could spare our friends out here in the Caribbean islands, but we see what this high pressure does, and it starts to kind of dance back towards Invest 94L, forcing it down south. But the GFS wants this to become a lot weaker, only 1,014 millibars, which is very close to becoming a non-high pressure center. That's going to completely allow this future developing system to just begin to move north, and it really won't. The latest GFS has this not really bothering anybody but the fish. All right. And so the GFS wants this to become a 987 millibar Category 1 hurricane, most likely. I mean, this is a 228 hours out, so this is way too far out to make any decisions on what's going to happen here. This is just a signal, an early signal of what could happen, but we really don't know for sure. Anything behind it that the GFS is hinting. All right, I've been noticing an uptick in a signal for a tropical system to form out there in the Gulf of Mexico. The Gulf of Mexico has been twisting and turning a little bit. It's kind of getting a little choppier, so we'll watch it. I think that with a sharp eye, I think we could definitely catch it doing something late into October. But the GFS hasn't been. It's not been very loud about this, but it definitely has been quiet because there have been a few previous fronts showing a hurricane forming in the Gulf, but we really just don't know for sure. So we look at the latest Euro run, and I'm telling you guys before we look at this that the European model is completely different than the GFS. It's almost completely opposite. All right. Since the latest 12Z Euro, I just want to show this because this goes out the farthest. This goes out full 240 hours out. So this is your system right here. This is Invest 94L. All right, and we see what this thing does. It's moving very slowly. We're getting all the way. I mean, this is already 130 hours out, and we're at the 17th, which would be Wednesday of next week. We do have a tropical depression at this point, most likely a tropical storm now. All right, but it's still drifting towards the Caribbean. The Euro is actually agreeing with that high pressure being where it is in that general location, but it's weaker. All right, and but it's not way out here. So that's because it's actually more because it's closer to our storm system here. Even though it's not that strong, this will still keep Invest 94L farther south. So if this were to be the picture, then we would see Invest 94L drift more or less east to west, and that would put the Caribbean islands on alert. All right, and we see what this thing does, and that high pressure gets stronger. Looks like there will be some ridging here. You can see these lines. This is some wind shear. All right, you can see that these little wind streams here. This is wind shear here, and this is ridging that's surrounding this high pressure. This ridging is kind of it's kind of like it's kind of like that. All right, so it's ridging. It's spreading around the center of the high pressure, and so that's going to keep this storm system farther south. And the latest Euro has this thing becoming a hurricane prior to making a landfall on the Lesser Antilles, and this is going to be a worst case scenario that the European is showing. All right, I did not word that correctly because I should not have said that this is going to be a worst case scenario. I meant what I'm really meaning to say is that the latest Euro is showing a signal for the worst case scenario, which is a major hurricane making landfall on the Caribbean islands. All right, that's basically what I'm trying to say here. This is going to change. This is not going to happen. We're going to get tweaks to this at least. We're going to probably see some major changes with this. But the latest European signal shows a strong, a Category 4 hurricane moving through the Caribbean. And then after it goes through the northern Lesser Antilles Islands, slamming Puerto Rico, and then the Dominican Republic and Haiti as a monster hurricane. All right, this is a out of the blue. This is just a completely random scenario. Basically, this is just what the latest European model is suggesting for a storm that is 230 hours out. All right, this is a very far away storm. This is really not going to be a worry for us until next week. So once this thing develops, that's when we can start worrying about this as the potential impacts become into the near future. So that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for coming to watch. I'll see you guys in the next video. So gotta continue watching the tropics, gotta continue covering the storm here, watching that severe weather event continue unfolding across the plains and then into the Midwest. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. So this is the storm system I was talking about as our blockbuster storm system, and this is pretty much it right now. So I would say the biggest threat is just that damaging wind threat. I mean, I really think that the severe weather aspect of this storm has really considerably died down, and it looks like we're not going to see as much rainfall as we feared before the storm actually began to impact people. And I think that this is actually the wind. The wind situation that we were dealing with has actually increased and it's gotten worse. But at least the severe weather aspect of things and also the flooding rainfall has been better than what we thought. So just continue watching the tropics, continue watching our weather back home, and I'll see you guys in the next video.